Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Leah, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unease.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another guest host edition of Afternoon Delight. I'm Sarah, a co-host on the sister podcast, Afternoona Asks, where we ask and hopefully try to answer your Asian drama questions. Today, I'm lucky to be joined by two guests, so let's meet them. Firstly, we have Corrine from Sex Love Lit podcast back on the show. Welcome, Corrine. And our
Hello.
second, hello. And our second guest is Patreon member Gavin. Welcome, Gavin.
Also, hello. Hi. Glad to be back.
Yeah, lovely to have you both. So, Corrine was a guest on an episode all about K-drama kissing. Like, what a great topic. It was ages ago, though. I think it's like, I looked it up, like episode 31. It's definitely not, it's definitely the under hundreds. But I love this episode. I remember thinking, what a great topic, and you had some really really cool insights. So we will link to this episode in the show notes in case you hadn't listened yet, and you'll get like a fuller introduction to Corinne and what she does. But let's briefly remind, if you don't mind, reminding us and our listeners about yourself.
Yeah, so I co-host the Sex Love Literature podcast, which I started with a friend in grad school because we both were getting PhDs in English. Actually, since I was on the K-drama kissing episode, I have actually finished my PhD. So I've transitioned from grad student to postdoc. Which actually I think in the UK a postdoc is a grad student, so like the terminology is actually
Yeah.
opposite.
Oh, is it different in the States? Oh, right. So you're a grad
Yeah.
student when you're pre-doc.
Well, you're a grad student when you're like doing the PhD. And
Oh, I
then a
see.
postdoc is like I finished the PhD and now I'm in like the job between finishing the PhD and hopefully getting a permanent professor position.
Ah,
But I
cool.
primarily study children's and young adult literature and fantasy, and I also watch a lot of K-dramas and C-dramas, which is why I am here now.
Yay. So you must be, I mean, this must be like your, because we were talking a lot about, we had the Patreon Zoom. Was it yesterday, Gavin? It felt like my
It
brain is just,
was,
yeah.
yeah.
And so we went into a bit of a book segue. I think you'd have really loved it because the Ninas were talking about kind of future trends and stuff. But with
Oh,
everything
cool.
that's going on with romanticy, like having their big moment and stuff, you must feel like this is like your zeitgeist of like,
Well, I'm actually, so a thing happens a lot of the time to people who get PhDs in English and that we forget how to read. Uh, like for fun. Like I know
yes,
how
for
to
fun.
read,
Yeah, I know what you
but my,
mean.
my joke is that I have been illiterate for the past 4 years, except like just my research.
Yeah.
But I've just started to like crawl out from under that rock in like November or so. And I've been reading a lot of like cozy fantasy books, which
Mm.
has been kind of fun to be like, oh, right, okay, I do like reading. I do not have to write about everything that I read. I can also like just read something and then let it leave my brain.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the downside to English literature when you study it. So I did it for A level, which is like the specialist subject we take for university in the UK. And I'm pretty much every text or poem that I did for those courses, they're just ruined for life. Like I can never, you can never enjoy them, can you? In the same way, you can't kind of look at it like a civilian anymore because you just did it to death. And it's just, it kind of gives you trauma when you revisit it.
Well, now I like reproach everything. A lot of the times you're like, oh, like what would I ask my students about this? So I'll have to like try
Ah,
not to be too
Mm.
yeah.
teacherly in how we talk about love like the galaxy.
Okay, cool. That'll be interesting. Right. So on Afternoon Asks, we usually ask our guests for five dramas to get to know you. So, Corinne, what Asian dramas would be your five?
So, since we're talking about a C drama today, I've kind of leaned C drama in my list,
Yeah.
but since people also, I assume, watch K dramas who listen to this, five that I would say sort of exemplify my taste, I would be Extraordinary You, the K drama, Mr. Sunshine, and then going into C drama is Lost You Forever, which is a Xianxia. Is that how you pronounce that?
It's Ciencia.
Jianzia. Okay.
It's okay. It's
But
a
only
tricky
part,
one.
yeah, but only part one because part two is, let's say is dealing with some censorship issues.
Ah.
And then I really like the story of Minglan, which is another big epic historical, and Meet Yourself, which is a sort of contemporary comfort drama.
Yeah. So let's go through them. So Extraordinary You. Have you watched this, Gavin? Did you watch Extraordinary You?
Is that the goes into a webcomic or is like the
Yeah.
whole yeah.
Yeah.
I would say halfway before stopping.
Yeah. So I recently watched this and recently dropped it.
Yeah, I thought that it was not for you.
It was interesting. Like I know that Amy and Leah really loved it. They did a podcast. Megan flat out refused to watch it because she doesn't do high school dramas. Um, and I don't do high school dramas either, but they really sold me on the podcast about how this is like really meta, it's about writing and all this. So I
hmm
was like, okay, fine. So I tuned in. And bear in mind I did really enjoy Lovely Runner. So I think the first part I found really enticing and interesting, like the whole setup. It was really novel.
hmm
And then Kim Hae-yoon starts doing her haru stuff, which got a bit Sanjay for me. And I was a bit like,
hmm
okay, maybe I can get through this bit. But then I think it just became a little bit, and I think there was a real joy in seeing Lee Jae-ok do his thing. Like
hmm
he does such a good angsty kind of 19-year-old. And Rawoon was obviously so
Yeah.
in the early part of his career in this drama,
hmm
right? Yeah. But so what is it that you really love about it? Is it the kind of the meta writing thing for you?
I think for me, it's a combination of the meta writing and the characters
Mm.
and how they're playing a lot with tropes in how that
Yes.
they're characterized and how they act. And I also really, really like Undano as a character and her sort of fighting against fate in a
Yes.
way,
Yeah.
Mhm.
uh, which I just found really compelling. And then she's also just so different or from like a lot of K-drama heroines, like intentionally so because she is sort of like loud and like and laughs too much and does all of this stuff that and all she's just like always running somewhere.
Yeah.
I actually think it helped me to watch it a very early in my K-drama journey, I guess. Not so early that I didn't understand the tropes that it was commenting on, but
Yeah.
early enough that I sort of appreciated that. And then also to watch Lovely Runner later. So it felt
Yeah.
like a progression to see her in Lovely Runner rather than going back to something. So like
Yeah.
seeing like Roon and then Lee Jae-wook and then seeing them get better like
Mm.
over time as opposed to like
Going
it
backwards.
feeling
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, definitely. And then Mr. Sunshine I love. Did you finish your buddy? Well, you had like a mega long buddy watch, Gavin.
I did. We watched one episode a week for 24 weeks. We finished like 2 weeks before 2024 ended. And it was an emotional roller coaster, and I can absolutely understand why it's like in your five to get to know you.
Yeah. And it gave you a hear me out cake, right? I'm gonna out Gavin for his hear me
Ah,
out.
gosh, yes. Uh,
I
you
bet you won't
know,
get you will not guess who Gavin's hear me out is from Mr. Sunshine.
Who but please do tell.
it's I believe it was Iwanik. The I think that's what his name was, but the despicable old man who just ruined
Ugh.
it.
I mean, the actor's
The
great.
actor's amazing, yeah.
such but like such screen presence. I mean,
Oh, I just was like, wow, that is quite some hear me out. There were lots of hear me outs where you feel like they're not real hear me outs, they're just, that's good taste. But your one was like standout. We had a hear me out thread on the Patreon, and that was like, wow. Um, cool. And then Lost You Forever. Krista was a recent guest on our year-end review, and this is one of her dramas, her Five to Know You. So she did a sell on me for this. So it's interesting because she didn't mention about the part two censorship thing. Is there stuff that you can say about this?
Yeah, so well, I mean, a big part of the issue, honestly, from what I understand, is that the male lead could not get as bad as he got in the web novel. I'm trying to say this in like a roundabout way.
Ah,
So
okay, yeah.
they did a like they like went there but then like pulled it back in a sort of like it was all a
Mhm.
dream kind of way,
Oh, right.
which for people who had read the book were like, "Oh wow, they're really gonna go there. Like this is
Yeah.
what I didn't think they would." And it's like, "Oh no, no, they didn't.
Oh, okay.
They did not." And then the other thing is they got I think maybe 12 fewer episodes than they asked for the license, but like a
Right.
significant number that meant cutting back on a lot of the plot lines. And one of the things I loved about part one is it's a story that feels like it's taking place over a long time. Like
Mm,
there's like years or decades sometimes that pass between big plot events, and you sort of feel that passage of time. And they
yeah.
couldn't have as many of those sort of lingering moments that emphasize that when they are trying to fit as much story as they can into many fewer episodes than they needed.
Yeah.
So, like, I still really liked it and I still recommend it as a drama overall, but part one is, in my opinion, far superior to part two.
Ah, cool. Right. Okay. So it's the story of Meng Lang. I think we're going to talk about later. Meet Yourself. I
Hmm.
also have been banging on about this myself because I watched this at the start this year and absolutely loved it. It was just what I needed for January with
Hmm.
everything that's going on. It was like such
Hmm.
a slow, beautiful slice of life escape to Yunnan where not a lot of stuff happens. But I think these guys are just real geniuses for kind of creating. Like, I found myself just watching it and thinking, like, why has this writer managed to make me care about these characters? Like, even really tiny side characters. I was just so impressed with the way they did that storytelling.
Hmm.
And that it was just such a heartwarming hug of a drama. So I really needed that. Cool. So thanks for those, Corinne. Did you want to cover the K-drama ones that you wrote?
I can also mention them for people
Okay.
who want to get like an idea of my taste in K-dramas as well. If they, perhaps would like to be sold on watching more C-dramas. Some other K-dramas that I really, really like are Search WWW, Do You Like Brahms, and My Liberation Notes.
Oh, cool. Yeah, there's some good dramas there. I haven't actually seen such WWW.
I love that one. That's a favorite for both me and Ayani. It's sort of in like, I don't even know if this is a subgenre, but like a narrative type where it's basically about three women
Mm.
and their relationships. And there are also like other romances and they have relationships with men as well. But it is mostly about like the dynamic between these women in a way that's also very sort of like over the top. And the premise sounds a little silly because they basically work for like three versions of Google that are competing, or two versions of Google that are competing. So like search engines.
Ah, the
But
searches, right?
yeah, but like it works. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those where you have to be like take the description with a grain of salt because it does not sell it. And then if you watch the first episode, it's like, oh, okay, this is how you're gonna make this exciting.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, cool. Have you watched such WWW, Gavin?
I started the first episode, and then didn't continue, but that was only because I probably wasn't in the right place. But I have always meant to go back on it,
Mm.
um, or back to it. And I think you're right that there is like a subgenre of like a trio of women in K dramas, because I'm also thinking of like, is it 39 with the lead from Crash Landing
Yeah.
on You?
And
Um,
Sun
is
Jin and
it
Jang
because of my
Mi-do.
first
Yeah.
life as
Yeah, because
well?
this is my first life is another
Yeah,
one. And be
Be Melodramatic.
melodramatic.
Yeah.
Hmm.
yeah.
I
So
finished that
it
at the back end of last year. That was really good.
So it definitely could be a subgenre of
Yeah.
K-dramas, I think.
Yeah, I like it. I like that we have this. And then Do You Like Brahms, which I think I love Do You Like Brahms? I don't think it gets mentioned enough, actually. It's such a quiet drama,
Hmm.
but so powerful in that way. And I also really love like so this was my first Kim Min Jae drama. And so I'd never well, I thought I hadn't seen him before, but obviously all of us have seen him before in Goblin, because he plays the young
Hmm.
king in Kim Shin's kind of first life before he became a goblin. I hadn't. I just thought that that's kind of like that his personality type, right? That he was really so he's very introverted. He plays a classic pianist, and he's very quiet. Um, and then I watched him in Dali and the Cocky Prince, and I was like, well, this
I did the same thing where I went from Do You Like Brahms to Dolly and the Cocky Prince, and he was just having such a good time filming
yeah,
that drama.
yeah. He's just so different, so different. And in some ways, like Puck and Bin as well, similar. Like I mean,
Hmm.
I think her introvert, quiet side is kind of quite obvious as well. But I think I went from that to um Extraordinary Attorney Woo again. So I was just like, wow, this is really, really different. But yeah, I really admire this writing, I think, for this drama as well, in that it's like two introverts as leads,
Hmm.
which is quite unusual, I think. But they do it really well. But what is it that you particularly like about it?
So I really I like the romance aspect, but
Mm,
another thing that I really like about it is how it is thinking about three different people at very different places in their career and like in their potential careers in the music industry, and all of them feeling sort of trapped and like they've hit a ceiling.
mm,
So like Park Bin Bin's character like is about to graduate with her bachelor's degree from having gone back to college and then doesn't have a future basically in playing the violin, and then the male lead's character is basically like a piano virtuoso but is being replaced by someone else in like the public imagination, and then the second female lead like was sort of a virtuoso growing up, but then like is sort of a has-been now. So like there's this overlap between like this sort of yearning and longing in their interpersonal relationships that is matched by how they feel about their careers. Uh and it's just a drama where I think a lot is left unsaid in a
yeah.
way that like I so I guess my taste goes back and forth between like completely over the top like high drama to like high tragedy sometimes, and like what I which I like in my historicals, but then like completely introverted, quiet, like everybody is upset all the time and nothing happens dramas.
Which
Which is
then,
kind of how
yeah,
I describe Do You Like Brahms and also my
my
liberation
liberation
notes.
notes. I was going to say that it's like spot on for my liberation notes too. Well, that's such a good summary of Do You Like Brahms? I really agree. It's really funny because the second film I like, have you watched Do You Like Brahms, Gavin?
I have not
No,
watched
it's it.
either Brahms or My Liberation Notes.
Yeah, they are properly quiet dramas. But Gavin has we did a drama swap, right? So I'm watching Yumi Styles, Gavin's watching Taxi Driver two. One and two, sorry. And I was moaning to him about Park Ji-hyun, right? Because she's in Taxi sorry, she's in Yumi Cells and it's super annoying. But my first drama that she was in was Do You Like Brahms? So she plays the second female lead in Do You Like
Hmm.
Brahms? And to be fair, it's a really difficult character to like. It's a really difficult character to play, I think. And she actually does a really, really good job in so much that I end up really disliking her from the drama. But I know,
She
like,
was
if I
like
took her
really
out,
good at
she
and
was
like
really
you're
good.
not supposed to like
Yeah, no,
her,
yeah,
but like
exactly. Yeah.
a standout moment from her for her character for me from that drama was like when she has every reason to dislike the female lead, uh, but then is teaching basically like a sample private lesson and is the first person to ever take the like Park Eun Bin's character seriously as a violin player in teaching her things and playing
Yeah.
her piece, which
Yeah.
I was like, oh, like you're and like that's one of the things that's like sad about it is she actually would be a fabulous teacher,
Yeah, she was a good teacher. Yeah.
but because of like the larger systems and reputation and all of that, like that probably probably won't get to be one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
that
know, right?
there's just a lot of people wanting things that they can't have.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And it's a double love triangle. So the second male lead is Kim Sung Chil, who does like unrequited love so well. Um, and he rounds out like the second love
Hmm.
triangle. Right. Well, anyway, thanks for that, Corinne. That was really interesting. I always love hearing people's kind of get to know you dramas and we always discover kind of new ones and like listening to what they like about them. So, Gavin, this is your first Delight podcast appearance, is that right?
It is, it
Yeah.
is.
So Gavin has been on with us for a few Afternoon Asks episodes now. So again, we'll link to those. We first had him on, you came to discuss costuming with us. So for those of you who might be interested in that topic, it was a super interesting podcast, if I can say so myself. As well as an intro to Gavin's drama taste, then check that episode out. We'll link it. But let's just check in with what you're loving drama-wise at the moment.
Yeah, so this weekend I just finished Love Scouts. It
Yay.
was a 10 out of 10, amazing, perfect. I mean, no drama is perfect, but it felt perfect every week. Um, like the writing was just so well done, so mature. Um, Everything that could go wrong did not, as in like they didn't throw in random serial killers or
Go to a terrorist
things like
country.
Great.
Yeah.
amnesias. Yeah, like oh, Argon. Um, but so good. And then I'm also watching Study Group, which is also, it feels like another 10 out of 10, which is crazy to say, two back to back 10 out of 10s for this year compared to last year. But for those who aren't watching, I would say it's a mix up of like Weak Hero Class meets Superman, if that makes
Mm.
sense, because he's main character almost has this like invincible aura about him. Like he can take on a ton of guys and just always win, which is what I love about it.
Yeah.
Um,
But all he wants to do is study. Like
all he
that's
wants to do is study. He's
all he
like
actually wants to do.
he's very golden retriever energy, and like all the side characters are so fun and so great. I hate watching when the stars gossip. It's
Yeah.
I don't know how you're holding on for that.
it's so I'm buddy watching it both with the Patreon group, as well as the same friend who I buddy watched Mr. Sunshine with. We decided to do this next, and what a mistake it was. It it drove me to drink in last week's episodes, and this week's episodes weren't too much better.
Oh no, because
Um,
it picked up for you in the middle. So
it did.
I dropped this a while back, but I have been vicariously enjoying the Patreon, mainly Leah and Gavin's kind of rants about this drama. I've been kind of reading along with you, but yeah, it seemed to kind of turn a corner, and you guys were all like, "Oh, actually, maybe I'm kind of enjoying this," but it's gone
It
back.
there was a small like array of lights that I could see that maybe this drama was salvageable, and then these latest episodes, I'm all anger, all anger.
So, Corinne, have you
Um,
started this at all? Have you been watching it?
I was thinking of watching it, and then I saw people's reactions to the first two episodes and was like, maybe I could instead not watch it. And I've been watching a lot of C dramas lately, which are just in a totally different. They put me in a totally different headspace where like I don't. I think I need like to take a break and watch something like a little fluffier and less like the country is in danger and the king will be deposed stakes. So I might need
Yes.
like a change of pace. But that's mostly what I've been watching so far this year.
Yeah.
and then also for any BL watchers out there, if I'm also watching Tempo, which is a Thai BL, and then When It Rains It Pours, which is the first drama I've ever watched pretty much where I'm like, you should absolutely cheat. You should go for that guy that you're interested in. Yeah. So that's my sell on that.
That's just
All right.
very good. Thank you. Right. So we're going to move on to today's deep dive, where we're going to be covering the Chinese drama Love Like the Galaxy, which is a monster 56 episode historical drama released in 2022. So, as is usual with our deep dives, we're going to do a spoiler-free section at the start of this drama, the start of this episode, before going into the more meaty topics of this drama with spoilers galore. And we're gonna, for those of you who've not seen this drama, and might be interesting starting. We're going to kind of do a bit of a sell and try and tell you about the drama as well. So this drama stars Leo Wu, or Wu Lei, who has starred in multiple dramas like Amidst a Snowstorm of Love and The Long Ballad. I first saw him when he was only 15 in Nirvana in Fire. The female lead is Zhao Lusi, who you may have seen in the very popular contemporary C-drama Hidden Love, or more recently in The Story of Pearl Girl. There is a huge cast of this drama, so we may cover them as we come to discuss them later. So this is a drama, a historical drama, a historical C drama, but it's not a xianxia, which is the genre of fantasy historicals, which I love between fairy and devil class as. So those are dramas that have fantasy elements and people live many, many thousands of years, and there's kind of different realms and fairy realms and so forth. So Love Like the Galaxy itself it leans slightly more wuxia, which are kind of like the martial arts historical dramas. But it's set in an undefined period of Chinese history. It's loosely based on the Han Dynasty, and the emperor that we see in the drama is likely to be based on Emperor Guangwu, who started the later Han Dynasty and had a courtesy name of Wen Shu. So that's the kind of semi-historical background, but it's not a proper historical. So you won't find, other than the emperor, you won't find any of these other characters in history. So synopsis-wise, I thought I'd take the one from my drama list. So I'm going to read this out. So Ling Buyi, the foster son of Emperor Wen and a talented and ruthless general of the Black Armor Army, was on a personal mission to uncover hidden truths about the past, which had led to the massacre of an entire city and his clan when he met Cheng Shaoshang during a mission to apprehend a fugitive in a rural village. The young Cheng Shaoshang has been left behind because her parents had gone off to fight in a war. Neglected and uneducated, she had been a thorn in her aunt and grandmother's side until the unexpected return of her parents after many years on the front lines. Having always lacked a loving family, Xiaoshang had been looking forward to being reunited with her parents, but the many years of separation inevitably led to some estrangement. Shaoshang, however, is unfazed and determined to live for herself, and her unruly and audacious nature, her quick wits, begin to catch the attention of quite a few people in the capital, including Ling Buyi. What do you think of this synopsis, guys, and how would you classify this drama's genre in general?
So to me, that synopsis feels a lot more like contextual setup than an actual synopsis. Like that's
Yeah.
setting you up for what's happening kind of in like the prologue scenes and maybe the first like two episodes.
Yes.
It does give a feel for Xiaoshang and Ling Buyi's characterizations, but that's kind of it. I would instead maybe add or suggest that there's sort of two main storylines going on that are obviously related because this is mainly a romance drama as well as an epic historical, but also is a revenge drama,
Mm.
and you don't necessarily know precisely who needs revenge for what early on, so it is then also a mystery uh, as you sort of put the pieces together along with the characters.
Yes.
For me, I thought it was interesting that they started with Ling Buyi's character and his backstory instead of Xiaoshang. Because for me, this drama felt very much like her story, despite the entire mystery surrounding Ling Buyi's past. But I do agree with Corrine in that it was just a very brief setup. Like, so much happens in the 56 episodes compared to just those like first 3 episodes that the synopsis describes. As for like the genre, definitely mystery, heavy romance. I don't know if y'all would agree, but I don't. For me, it's not a political intrigue
Mm.
compared to other C dramas that I've seen.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Hmm.
massively court politics either, which was good. I also think it leans very slice of life, especially that
Hmm.
Hmm.
first half of the drama. So this was another drama that got cut from its original length, and I think you really feel it in the pacing in the second half because it's more rushed, I think, for me personally. But yeah, I came for the romance, and I remember messaging Liliana from Tea and Soju Pod around about episode 25 and going, like, does this at any point actually start being a romance? You know, because like at the moment they've never been together for more than 10 seconds an episode or something like that. So it is not just slow burn, like it's like literally snail's pace burn of a romance. But personally for me, like completely worth it. But it's just I just wanted to put it out there for those who come to this drama wanting the romance like I did, that it takes a while to get there, but be patient with it because it really pays back.
And maybe building on Gavin's point just a little bit to add another genre that it kind of is, I think it is also like a coming of age story for Xiaoshang.
Yes, definitely.
For
Yeah.
Like
sure.
it, since there's a lot of like, well, the term for it would be like Bildungsroman, where like that happens a lot in young adult stuff, where like there's a transition from childhood to adulthood, and we very
Yeah.
much see like Xiaoshang's maturation over the course of events of the whole show.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So let's first chat about why we first came to watch this drama. What was it about it that appealed? So for me, I think at the time I was in the mood for an epic Chinese historical. This has often come up as one of the top rated dramas, so I wanted to check it out. I also really like Zhao Lusi in Hidden Love, so was up for another of her dramas. And as I said, I already saw Wule in Nirvana and Fire, which I really, really loved, although he was obviously playing this like child character for failure. So it doesn't really count, and I don't think we got the full like, Leo Wu kind of experience in that drama. And as I just said, I really wanted a bit of an epic romance. How about you guys?
So I would say this is actually my first full C drama.
All right.
Yeah, I watched it as it was airing. Love Between Fairy and Devil actually aired that same summer.
Oh my
So I was
gosh.
watching them at the same time.
Wow.
And I don't, for listeners who may not know, like Chinese dramas, when they are airing, have insane
Yeah.
airing schedules. Like
Yeah.
watching them as they air is an absurd thing to do. Nonetheless, I was doing it with two different ones.
Wow.
Uh, it was also like during the summer, so I didn't like have to go to work because I'm on an academic schedule.
Yeah.
Uh, but I had seen people talking about it and were like, I don't know, I'm kind of in the mood for historical. This looks pretty and it looks like they have a lot of feelings. I don't know. And then I started watching it and I was just so hooked to Xiaoshang's character from
Yeah.
like the beginning because
Yeah.
she's just so interesting.
She is. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So I have to say, watching both Love Between Fairy and Devil and Love Like the Galaxy is insane. I can't believe you did that.
Dropping live as well. That is like, I mean, just like wrapped in C dramas, like wall to wall. Yeah, to
It
catch
was
up.
like it was a real hot C drama summer for me.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that sounds like a great summer.
Yeah.
But for me, similar to you, Sarah, I watched it in the summer of last year, and it was one of those times when you know exactly what type of drama you're in the mood for. I was looking for either a Chinese wuxia or a shanxia, and I brought over a few options to the Patreon. I was thinking like maybe Till the End of the Moon, Love Like the Galaxy. There was one other option, I can't remember what, but they helped me narrow it down to Love Like the Galaxy. And I knew Wu, but I hadn't seen him in anything. And I had seen Zhao Lushi earlier last year, um, in the Romance of Tiger, in the Romance of Tiger and Rose. Thanks to your pod with Liliana of TM Soju, which that was one of her recs for like
Yeah.
beginner C dramas, I think.
Yeah. I remember that. I've not actually seen that yet.
Ayani and I actually went on Tea and Soju to review Romance of Tiger and Rose at the end of last year.
Oh, cool. Who's the male lead for Romance with Tiger and Rose?
Uh, Ding Yu Z, I think.
Right.
He was just in his career didn't really take off from that, but he was just in Love Game and Eastern Fantasy and really
Ah,
like got big off of that one, I think.
yeah. Ah, cool. Yeah, that is like on my massive watch list. I haven't seen it.
Okay, I was just gonna say I did listen to that pod and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Ah, cool. So without spoilers, because we're still in the spoiler-free section, could you guys pick out some either themes or things that you particularly liked about this drama? Do you want to start, Corinne?
So the things that I really loved from this drama, sort of from beginning to end, were Shaoshang's characterization. She's a really, really strategic, really, really whip smart character who does
Mm.
not follow the rules, but always has good reasons for why she does things. And I would also say that Zhao Luce's performance as this character is like one of the best of her career to date. I really like the romance and the slowly unfolding mystery that ramps up. I did a rewatch of Love Like the Galaxy because I did not think I could remember the finer points from when it aired. And the mystery was just as rewarding, I would say, when I know how it ends.
Hmm.
So that was really nice. And then I also just really like the costuming, the score, and the cinematography. It is just a really, really beautiful drama to watch as well.
Yeah.
I 1,000% agree with Corinne on costuming and score. The money shows in this drama. It like you can tell how like expensive it is. I love the mother-daughter relationship, even though it was terrible. Um, there was just the right amount of court politics for me. The theming, I would say the filial piety stuck out, like Ling Buyi seeming like the most unfilial son out there to his father, but then we find out all his reasons for everything that he's done, why he's acting the way he is, and we learn that he's actually the most filial person to ever filial
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah, I think for me, I would echo Gavin's point earlier that actually this is a really female-centric drama because actually it's Xiaoshang's story, really. And obviously she has her romance with Ling Buyi and he has major storylines, but really she takes the bulk of this drama. We see the story and the viewpoint a lot from her point of view, and she has, as Corinne's saying, a great character and kind of unusual. I mean, like I'm someone who's grown up with Chinese dramas, and they've really evolved, obviously, since I was a child, because our female leads were often maybe not so much in historical, but definitely in contemporary, were just really good girls. And so, I spent my whole childhood being told how to be a good Chinese girl because I was not very good at being a good Chinese girl. I talked back too much. I was way too independent. I kept asking too many questions. I wasn't very demure. And I didn't necessarily see myself in TV dramas that I was watching when I was growing up. So I always think that anybody who's young, that was like me and would see Xiaoshang's character in this drama would feel seen and would feel like, there is a way to be, an act, and it doesn't always have to be somebody who's pleasing their elders, because that is definitely something that she doesn't do. Um, but for me, like massive highlight in the drama is Leo Wu as Ling Buyi. Like I think he is really magnetic,
Mhm.
really, really strong male lead and incredibly charismatic. So for that first half of the drama when he's actually really not in it that much, every scene he comes into, he just kind of sprinkles a kind of magic on it and you get really like he's just arrived kind of feeling. And I really got addicted to that. I really loved it. And then when we got obviously much more of them in the back half, just every bit of his acting, from his yearning eyes to like the way he'd arch a brow or the way he held himself was just really mesmerizing to me. So if you're somebody who kind of falls for this kind of hero, then this might be a drama for you too. So I'm kind of still wowed that you spent a summer with Ling Buyi and Dongfang Qingtang. Like how did you return to reality after like
Oh,
spending time with these?
not well. Not very effectively.
Oh, amazing. So I've just done a mini sell, but how would you sell this drama to people who hadn't yet watched it? So actually, Gavin, do you want to go first?
Sure. So for my cells, I think I'm going to use some comps. And I actually tried to sell this to Leah right after I finished watching this. And I used the same comparison It didn't work, but I would say if you liked My Dearest, I think you would like this. So there's a competent male lead, uh, very slow burn. There's war, um, and even the drama being divided into two parts is so similar to My Dearest and Love Like the Galaxy. And then for my second one, which is kind of a stretch, but if you enjoyed the mother-daughter relationship and slow burn of 2521, then I think you would like Love Like the Galaxy as well.
Interesting comps. Yeah, I could see that. How about you, Corinne?
So the things I would emphasize here is that I really loved the main relationship between Xiaoshang and Ling Buyi, in part because once they do actually sort of get together, they have they're a couple who communicates with each other,
Hmm.
but then also has I think persuasive places where their communication breaks down. So
Yes.
they like have some very interesting conversations about like power and the gender dynamic and like their class differences.
Mm,
And it is also a kind of Cinderella story in a way where Xiaoshang is like getting yanked way above her station and education level. And it is sort of realistic about how maybe some parts of that would suck. Uh, I would also say that C-drama historicals are often sometimes on another level in their development, in part because they have this really long length to deal with. So there can be a lot of narrative seeds they plant early on that come to fruition later. And sometimes, like, if they have to make too many cuts for censorship reasons, that can turn into kind of a mess. But I think here they were able to maintain most of them so that, like, it earns its length.
yeah.
Uh, so
Yeah.
there's just a lot of payoff for sticking with it with characters that I really enjoyed spending time with and seeing on screen.
Mm, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, actually, on that, I don't think for me it got saggy anywhere. So I think, I mean, I love Between the Fairy and Devil, but there is in the mortal realm a slight saggy middle, I think. But I
Hmm.
think Love Like the Galaxy kind of held me all the way through. There wasn't a point where I was just like, oh, this is a bit, I'm waiting for more stuff to happen. Um, So I think tropes wise, romance tropes wise, as the Afternoona Delight talk a lot about romance tropes. So this is a He Falls First. I think I would also class it as enemies to lovers from the
Yeah.
start as well. I've always said it's really, really snail burn, and slow burn. And for those who like their angst, because I love my angst, the back half gets super angsty. So I got some really good angsty feels. So if that's the kind of thing that you want in a drama as well, this might work for you too. I'd also like to make the point that whilst it is 56 episodes, which might feel like, well, it certainly sounds like a very daunting prospect. It is obviously 56 Chinese drama length episodes, which by the time you lop off the very lengthy credits on either side, come in about 40 minutes long. And when you're talking and comparing to like, maybe a Queen of Tears episodes, which is knocking in at like an hour and 40, the episode count sometimes doesn't quite compare. So you kind of have to like look at run time. And as I said, the pacing is pretty quick. It's pretty slower at the start. It's much more slice of life at the start. You just hitting play, or I was anyway, just hitting play like the whole time. So the whole 56 episode count came down super quickly for me as I was binging. Let's get to the last question of the spoiler section. So your overall view of this drama and why you love it.
For me, it's almost perfect. Um, the biggest reason for me that like captivated me throughout this drama is how long they were able to draw out Now Now's and Ling Buyi's relationship, and of like from their first meeting to getting together. I think yeah, it's just their whole story because it feels like a story versus I don't know, like a quick movie.
Yeah, I would second that it is, again, I wouldn't necessarily it's perfect, but it is pretty close
Yeah.
in the characterization of all the characters, how they interact, and just the performances are also strong. I
Mm.
don't remember if I've mentioned this already, but it also does have a very, I think, compelling ensemble cast.
Yes, definitely.
And like Xiaoshang has a very full life with a lot of different people in it that she
Yes.
meets and gets to know when she sort of re-enters into society. And even if I didn't like some of them, I found them all compelling to watch, let's
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I
yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a really excellent extended cast. And one of my favorite emperors I've ever seen in a C-drama historical. Like he's
Hmm.
such a fun character. So yeah, I agree. This is absolutely one of my top favorite dramas. I really, really loved watching this. And personally for me, I think Ling Buyi is one of those male leads that I think you all need to experience. So I think it's so much like worth watching for him alone. But actually, then you get such a compelling female lead as well. She's so independent and strong and smart and witty and yeah. So I think the pair of them are such strong characters in their own right. And then you watch them kind of fight and then come together, and that's really magical. So that's our cell, guys, and that's the end of the spoiler-free section. So we are going to take a quick rec of the week, and then we're going to be back in for the spoiler section. So I thought, given I'm taking over for this episode for the Afternoon Delight podcast, we would finally, after 4 years, feature a MandoPop rec of the week. So instead of K-pop rec of the week, we're going MandoPop, and we're going to go with the king himself of MandoPop. So his name is Jay Chou or George Yellen. He's a Taiwanese singer, songwriter, musician. He's a real force of nature, and some Western audiences might know him. He's been in quite a few Western films. He played the Green Hornet, I think, in one of the Batman films. I haven't watched that many like Western movies with him in it, so he's very famously. He also stars in Asian dramas. So there's a K-drama remake of one of the famous Taiwanese movies, Secret, which he was the main lead of, which is a really great Taiwanese drama. So he is huge artist, as I said, like kind of dubbed the king of MandoPop. He sells out stadiums wherever he goes. I was lucky enough to see him perform in London like last year, and it was amazing. And I'm pretty old, so I have been with him since the start of his career, like 20 something years ago. So a lot of his songs kind of bring me back to like my days in London when I was like 20 something and like going out a lot. But for a lot of his fans, they literally grew up with this music. So like we went to in his concert, he was kind of going like, put your hands up if you've listened to me since I debuted. So like me and a few other Arjumas were like, yeah. And then like he was like, and put your hands up if you've listened to me since you were born. And then like loads of people put their hands up, and I was just like, oh my God, I feel so old. But yeah, he is great. So the song that I'm actually going to rec today is I've chosen. He's like a really huge difference of genres in his music. So he raps. He also does ballads. He plays traditional Chinese traditional Chinese instruments like the erhu and the guzheng, which you might have seen in Chinese dramas, and he incorporates those in his music together with rapping and kind of more like upbeat dance kind of like sounds. But he is also a really amazing singer. He plays the piano, so he has quite some piano ballady things. So he's got like all sorts, and dance kind of tracks as well. But I've picked one that kind of fits, I think, the mood of Love Like the Galaxy and historical, because it has a lot of Chinese kind of this kind of like it's like a long stringed instrument. It's like got a small barrel and then a very, very long 2 pieces of string up at the top, and you kind of like play it with a bow, and it has a really sad sound to it, so you would never play it to like have a dance to. It's not a joyful sound. It's really mournful, but it's really beautiful, and it features that a lot in this track, which is Tinghua, which is blue and white porcelain. So we'll put that in the show notes, and you can go and check out his music. Cool. So with that, we're going to move into the spoiler section. So before we get there, I thought it would be just a note on the drama, on the character names. I put this in the spoiler section because obviously Ling Buyi changes his name at some point. But I took this Ling Buyi himself through the drama, and it can be quite confusing. It's referred to in lots of different ways. So obviously he's called Ling Buyi. He's also General Li because he's a general. He's also called Shi Lang. at various points, which I think they translate to 11th master. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know why he's called the 11th, like the 11th of what, like 11th master of what. And actually, it at some point is used as a plot point because Shaoshang doesn't know that the Ling Buyi that she knows is also known as the 11th master. So I looked it up at the time, and it's because he is kind of adopted in quote marks by the emperor, and he's the 11th son of, or 11th child of the emperor. So he's called Shi Yilang, 11th master. He's also called Zisheng, and obviously later changes his surname. So from a Reddit thread, I wanted to just put out a note that there are lots of different ways of referring to you and having a name. So when you grow up, and when you're younger, you might have a name. And when you become an adult, you get a different name and an honorary name. And there's all these different kinds of names. And then much more prevalent in historical dramas. So kind of sometimes makes historical dramas harder to understand because lots of people have the same character will be referred to in many different ways by different people in the drama, and the way they refer to them often is because of their status relative to that character's, and they have to call them, certain things to match the kind of the right status that this person holds relative to themselves. So I will put a link in the show notes of this Reddit thread because I really think it's really interesting if you want to know all about different names and when you might use them. Similarly, for Cheng Shaoshang, she is called Niao Niao by her family, which is kind of like a pet name she has, but she's called the Cheng family daughter as well later. And I think she gets referred to as his fiance, Ling Buyi's fiance as well. So there's, I think it could be quite confusing, especially when you first start to, like, why do they keep calling them different names? So I thought I'd put that in. Anyway, so let's go on to spoiler topics. So I thought could start with a chat about Ling Buyi himself. Do you guys consider him a red or green flag hero? Corrine, do you want to start?
So I would say that he is a red flag hero, originally in disguise as a green flag hero.
Yes.
Because I will admit, he does always show up to save Niao Niao's life. Like, and has like it's a recurring motif of like him like catching her when she's falling or like about to be stabbed or like whatever and being like, "Don't worry, I'm here." But also like he has been lying to her the whole time
Yeah.
and using this like guilt of like, oh, you don't trust me, you keep like making all these plans and not like telling me what you're gonna do, like I'm here for you, I'm the best fiance. And then like this man fully like was just using that to his benefit. Also, he's like kind of scary. Like he just breaks people's legs and commits random acts of violence. And I love that for him. But also like I love that for him in a drama that's not like in my life.
Yeah. So true. Gavin?
Very similar. In part one, I would say he's a green flag, and then in a wild alternative events, in part two, he switches and becomes a red flag. Because like there's a moment when he, out of a desire to protect her, I'm sure, crosses the line and could fully tell her everything about who he is, his history, his past, what his real name is, but doesn't, and it ruins everything that they built. So
Yeah, so true. So I'm one of these drama watchers that I don't try to guess too much. Like I really just love being told a story and just going along. Like I'm quite naive in that way. So with him, I definitely went on this journey that you guys were saying as well. And I remember genuinely feeling really shocked. You know the scene where they've randomly gone to a temple and well, randomly she's gone to a temple and she's up at the top and then she hears voices downstairs and there's like conspiring about the crown prince, this, that, and the other. And then suddenly Ling Buyi appears out of nowhere and kind of saves her, does his kind of like, grip while still holding her hero thing. And then we find out much, much later down the line, his voice is one of the ones that was conspiring like downstairs. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like all this time. I thought he was there to sweep in and save her, but actually he was the one who was actually doing all of this plotting and was there for a reason. So I actually really enjoyed that kind of journey. But yeah, I'm with you that he is absolutely completely a red flag. And like I think fulfills, if people who might want to enjoy that kind of fantasy kind of red flag hero, I think he is very much kind of there to fulfill that like romance fantasy butter kind of role. Okay, so then my next question, I think we've answered this a lot in the spoiler-free section about things that we loved about this drama. So, um, I was going to ask about one thing that we loved and one thing that we wanted to nitpick. So I think for me, I've already talked about my love for Ling Buyi, but he is played amazingly by Wu Lei. And I still can't believe how young this guy is. Because I think at the time he was 21. Is that right? When he filmed this drama? Um,
Was he?
yeah,
That's
I
He's a
know,
crazy.
right?
baby.
It's really crazy. I mean, he's still only now 24. So like he just played such a, I mean, I think Ling Buyi is obviously he's older than Shaoshang in the drama, but still he just played him with such maturity and gravitas and like I said, charisma. And just like a king of like the micro expressions on his face, which I just really, really loved. So he was definitely a highlight for me. So my nitpick was Xiaoshang's mum. So first of all, I thought it was really funny that she's exactly the same actress as Hidden Love. So I watched Hidden Love before I watched Love like the
Hmm.
Galaxy. And I remember thinking like she looks really familiar. And then you do that thing of looking up. I'm like, oh my God, she's like the same mum. So she's the thing for playing Zhao Lucy's like mum. Um, so I think initially I actually really liked the relationship that they had, um, and the battles that they had because they kind of like I think I've said, I had like, I had a quite Chinese mum who was also quite strict, and I think that she was really well written in terms of how Chinese families try to manage their wayward daughters. All of the things that she said are things that really felt true to life, like things that my mum has said to me over the years and over the time that she's tried to turn me into a demure Chinese girl that would be polite, in regular society. So I saw a lot of that. So I think some maybe parts of the things that I disliked was that it was just so much like my childhood. But I think for me, it got a little bit too repetitive. And I think I got really frustrated that it took her so, so long in the drama to really learn who her daughter was and how to handle her. Because she just felt like a battering ram kind of going against like a door, and not getting any results and still just doing exactly the same thing. And then in the meantime, just constantly damaging, this relationship that she could have had with her daughter. So that's the bit that I found. And I think because for me, part one was lengthier than part two. So I think if I could have switched it around, that I had more of part two, like more episodes with all of the action that happened in part two, and part one kind of like squished down a little bit. That's how I would have preferred it. And that's partly because of the repetitiveness of, for what felt like for me, the repetitiveness of this relationship.
Hmm. Yeah, so that makes sense to me. I would also say, so I think part of what is interesting to me about their conflict, maybe a little bit in defense of it,
Yeah,
is that so much of it comes from them being the same person in a lot of ways.
true. Yeah,
Mhm.
And the mom really disliking the things about her daughter that I think maybe remind her of herself or that
yeah,
she's had to tamp down,
true.
um, which I really liked. So actually maybe a nitpick that I might have is that I actually think it would have been a better drama if they had ended up estranged instead of reunited, because the way their relationship was patched up at the end to me felt like a we're not allowed to leave them estranged at the end, so we're gonna have this sort of
Mm.
band-aid on Niao Niao's relationship with her family.
Mm.
But I think very much that in her heart, the Empress is her mother now, and she's
Yes.
basically let go of her birth mother and basically like agrees to deal with it to like keep the peace, but only because the Empress is gone.
Mm, true.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I did wonder as well whether or not the whole kind of like semi-redemptive arc that her mum has got chopped off a little bit because of the whole
Mm.
edits and stuff. Because I think that did feel a bit rushed for me. But yeah, that's a really good point about the Empress.
Yeah, so I've kind of mentioned this before, but I think one of the things I do really like is how balanced Xiaoshang and Ling Buyi are. Like I think they're both very ride or die in different ways. And like if Ling Buyi is a red flag character, Xiaoshang is absolutely also a red flag character. Like
Yeah.
they're like they're a mess. And there's I think also a way in which they both would be the villain in someone else's story. Because they so often do things that are unhinged. And I like that because it makes it more interesting to
Yeah.
watch. But then my nitpick, I think, would also be that just the ending feels rushed and it just feels like things are chopped off. That it's like, wait, I don't fully understand how this like engagement wasn't real or whatever,
Yeah,
but
true. Yeah.
okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's like a very small nitpick, all things considered, for a C drama, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What about
My nitpicks are also like pretty minuscule. Like we never got to see who Now Now's older brother was. I was really hoping for like a cameo the entire drama ever since we found out that there was a third brother who we
Never
just
Met?
not
Yeah.
seen. Yeah. And then also maybe surviving that cliff fall. Can I it was a year of surviving cliffs after both this and then When the Phone Rings last year as well. I was just like, let's no more cliffs, please.
I think what was mad about that cliff thing as well was that it was like when they finally did rescue him, it's like they knew where he was and where to go back to, and it was like, why did you wait for such a long time to
They just
go
like
and
left him dying on the cliff for like 3 days.
Yeah.
Like that's unhinged behavior.
It's just so random and unexplained. Yeah, I did feel like that. Um,
So one question I had was there a specific point when watching that you knew you were loving the drama, or you knew you would love the drama?
So for me, the moment I knew that I would love it is when Xiaoshang orchestrates the bridge collapse as revenge on some of the other like young women who have been picking on her.
yeah.
Like she's just so it's so evil of her, but also so funny and like doesn't do them any harm, but it's so embarrassing. And I was like, "Oh, you're like a strategic little mastermind and like you will get your revenge
Yeah.
no matter what, like, and no matter the
Mhm.
consequences." And like that, I just the shot of her like walking away with like the smug smile on her face. It was
Yeah.
just perfect.
Yeah, I really loved that.
It was such a slow clap moment of like, you go, girl, get them, get your revenge, do this more often, no matter what the elders
Yeah,
say.
yeah, definitely.
For me, I remember episode 6 when we got to see all three men who are interested in Now all in one episode. So up to that point, we hadn't met either, or Ling Buyi hadn't, and Now hadn't come face to face
Yeah.
yet. They hadn't even like exchanged any like dialogue, well, face to face dialogue. And then we hadn't met Wu Yao yet. We hadn't met the scholar fellow who I'm blanking on his name. But we're suddenly introduced to all three men who are all interested in her. And I'm like, reverse harem, please.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, mine was kind of attached to that. Like, I think you guys know that Ling Buyi is like my thing for this drama, but I remember that when she is stood there with Ayao and Ling Buyi is off to the side and he's watching them together, and he does a kind of like grip thing with his hand, I think, on his sword, and it's and I just always love those moments, when there's like, there's all this emotion coming through the male lead. And I just remember thinking like, oh, I can't wait to watch all of this unfold, because there's so much emotion there already. And, it's that moment like as a romance fan when you're just like, oh, it's going to be really delicious, like the way that this is going to play out. And he's already feeling so much. And, all this jealousy is kind of boiling up. And he has to be so in control of all of this. So I can't wait to watch him kind of fall apart and lose the control. So I think that was it for me. It was like a tiny moment, but it was really like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm really looking forward to the rest of this. And so then, yeah, related to that, like your favorite scenes from the drama, can you pick some out that you particularly liked, Gavin?
Yeah, the moments that I didn't even need to like go back and rewatch or that will just like always live with me is also episode 6, the burning restaurant, whenever Ling Buyi saves her from like a falling lantern thing. Also the arrow surgery.
Yeah.
Um, so much tension, so much like eye
Yeah.
communication is happening there. And it's like, how are you making this bloody semi-surgery, not really surgery, but like, how is it so sexual?
Yes.
I'm just gonna say
Yeah.
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So true.
um, Corinne, you already mentioned it, but the collapsing bridge, so good. And then there is a moment whenever um, I think they had just broken off Now Now's and Lu Yao's marriage or engagement, and the Now Now's family and Lu Yao's family are like arguing, insulting each other. Both Shaoshang and her mom slap the other mother
Yeah.
daughter duo, and then they do this like the same pose, which is throwing back to our conversation of like they really are the same
Yeah.
person. And it's so cringe, but I still look back on it like, yes, what a great moment.
Yeah. What about you, Corinne?
So some of my favorite sort of angstier scenes, I think, are Ling Buyi's proposal when he sort of, I mean, he is manipulating Niao Niao
Yeah.
into getting engaged to him, but when it, after her mom has just said so many terrible things about her in front of everybody, and like to Xiaoshang, like confirmed all of the worst things that she thinks that her mom thinks about her, for Ling Buyi to be like Xiaoshang is the best lady in the world. I will marry no one but her, was just such a like it was just like such a swoon-worthy moment
Yeah, it was so sweet. Yeah.
for him to like completely stand up for her, and for her to have someone be like, yeah, like you're great, you're
Yeah.
amazing, and
Yes.
anything I could ever want. I also really like the Emperor orchestrating Niao Niao finally confessing her feelings by flogging Ling Buyi.
Yes.
like the contrast between the like high tragedy of like Ling Buyi being beaten, with
Yeah.
the Emperor making his like side commentary and being like, yes, yes, let her a little bit closer. And
Yeah.
then the consort and the Empress both being like, seriously? And then the Empress being to consort you like what did you see in this man? Like when you were younger? And then her answer being, oh, his face. So just like I don't know. I think that contrast between the comedy and like Xiaoshang's like little tragedy playing out that they're watching was just delightful to watch.
That's so true. It was
Um,
such a great scene. Yeah, I love that too.
and then I also really like Niao Niao riding to the rescue after Ling Buyi does his little massacre. Uh, and then her, particularly her face when he abandons her and, flings himself off the cliff. So that sort of high tension moment where like she's given him so many opportunities to tell her what's going on. He doesn't. She figures it out and comes anyway. And
Yeah.
then he still abandons her. I think is one of the most heart-wrenching parts of the drama. So those are
Yeah.
I think some of my favorite scenes. And I guess they're all related to their relationship development. So I guess I
Mm.
do really like their relationship.
Yeah. I actually say I think this drama was really good at always coming back to their relationship. Like even if we had an extended part of like court stuff or things that were happening with the emperor or the royal family or whatever, we'd always then get a small scene of them together. So it always felt like there was something they kept just dropping us, um, enough crumbs to kind of keep going, even through the bits of the drama that were, didn't have as much of them in. So I've had some tiny scenes like I said, I really like the angst there's a moment right at the end of the drama when Xiaoshang decides that the Empress has died, and she wants to stay in the palace, and she doesn't want to be with Ling Buyi anymore. And she kind of basically tells him to go away, and so he finally does, and then he kind of grips the door, like the gate. I think there's just something about me and him in his hands. I think that he's just kind of like so in pain, and he has to kind of grip the door to kind of like get enough like for the pain to pass, and then he can move on and get out. And I just really like I just loved all those moments. But like you said, I also really love all the comedy as well. So I think there's a running gag, when she sews him his armor and it basically
Yes.
looks like a chicken, but he keeps going, it's a duck, it's a Mandarin duck. And like he just basically just barks the head off anybody who suggests it looks like a chicken. And I just really like that as a running gag. And it was just because Ule just does such good comedy as well as like all the angst and stuff as well. I think he's really versatile like that. And I think the script was really good at kind of showing those sides of him too, because he's obviously otherwise a very serious character. So we've discussed as well how this is an extended ensemble cast and there's some really, really great characters. So I thought we could maybe flag some ones that were favorites of ours. Gavin, do you want to go first?
Sure. Um, so a favorite side character of mine, I would have to say, is Now Now's grandmother. JK, she's the
Oh
worst.
my God,
She is hilarious, though.
She is.
She's so
Yeah.
funny.
And
She's hilarious.
yeah,
I hated her, and then I loved her comedy.
yeah,
I didn't like her. But her love for all of the bridal gifts and then them getting taken away.
yeah.
High comedy for me.
I mean, she
Um,
was so well. Like whoever has a writer has like a mother-in-law or some relative that's like this, because her lines that she was saying, they were just so spot on for this character. Like she just, like I've had aunties that like not real aunties that the interfering ones, that not blood ones, but they just speak exactly like her, and I just really remember thinking like, oh my gosh, she's giving me a headache because she just reminds me of those kinds of people that I met in my life. She was really well written and played. Yeah.
mhm. Um, and I loved her, or in the beginning, her like competition with Now Now of like the trying to one up the other with
Oh yeah, the fainting and
like
all
the
of that.
fainting.
And then she
Yeah,
accidentally actually runs into the wall and like
it's so good. Yeah. But for real favorite side characters, Lu Yao, who was almost Now Now's husband, I I loved him so much just because he knew what he wanted. He knew that he wanted her, and he was willing to change for her versus another guy we knew or know, um, who had to put other things first before he put Now Now first. And unlike Ling Buyi, Liu Yao was always or was almost always going to choose Now Now until she kind of forced him to
Yeah.
uh, go in this different direction. Loved him.
yeah, he's great. Well, one of the things I really like about him as a character is he does it doesn't feel like a love triangle, like just for a love triangle's sake to me when Liu Yao and Niao Niao are engaged. Like we know Ling Bui is like longing for
Hmm.
Niao Niao, but like their relationship felt real to me. And
Mm,
like I was upset when their relationship like had to end. Like
yeah.
that episode where she like tells them no, like we can't do this, like, and these are the reasons, and it's because you're a good person that you are going to agree with me that like oh yeah, like that is like tragic to me in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I think Loyal was exactly who she needed at that time of her life.
Hmm.
Like he was, his golden retriever energy and his
Yeah.
like, love her for who she is and just thought she was amazing with it. I mean, that's everything that she needed, from all her battles with her mum. She just needed someone who was like solidly in her corner. So it was really nice. My fave side character is Concert Yue. So I just loved how kick-ass she was. I mean, she basically spent the whole time in the drama, basic kind of going, I don't want any of your drama. I literally don't want to be involved. Like, stop involving me with your little political intrigues. But then she couldn't, then she just doesn't suffer fools gladly. And then, she couldn't help herself. Then she'd have to just come in and just drop like about 50 truth bombs on everybody and just slay them all with like one of her mini speeches. And I just loved it. And I just loved how she was the boss of the emperor. And yeah, I mean, we've just seen so many court dramas where the consorts are always plotting to overthrow the empress and to get their way and everything. And it was just really refreshing to have someone who wasn't like that and who was just like, I just want to have a quiet life, like stop bugging me. And that her and the Empress had a really special relationship, which we kind of got to spend a lot of time with and got to see, that was also really different as well from the usual kind of versus Empress kind of relationship. So she was my pick of the side character dramas, I think. But what about you, Corinne? You've
Yeah, so I'm cheating by picking like a group of characters. But like I really, really liked Niao Niao's sibling gang. So
yeah.
particularly her second brother and her third brother, who was her twin, as well as her cousin Yang Yang, and of course, Chi Chi, who I adored.
She was
Like
great.
she's so funny.
I loved
But
her.
like it was really nice, particularly when Niao Niao's brothers showed up, for her to like have allies for the first time
Yes.
and be
Yeah.
like, oh, like I like she just really needed a brother. And
Yeah.
then she suddenly has two of them who are
Mm.
like are willing to like plot with her, and like whenever she's about to get punished by their mother, like will like run in and like throw themselves to their knees and be like, please don't punish her, and like
Spare her. Yeah.
and I think Yang Yang was also a sort of quietly underrated character because she is
Mm.
set up. Well, actually, I really like that she is set up and in some ways could have turned out to be Niao Niao's enemy because she is like the quote unquote well-behaved
The perfect one.
daughter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but Niao Niao refuses to let them become enemies and is very
Yes.
clear about where their conflict is coming from, and it's not coming from her cousin.
No.
And then I also just really loved Chi Chi. Uh, she's just
Yeah.
and her sort of magpie
Yes.
tendencies
Yeah.
when it comes to like her jewelry and all of that. Also, like going back to the grandmother a little bit, I do love the scene where the grandmother gives Chi Chi one of her hairpins when
Yeah.
they're like in the prison because the grandmother and Chi Chi have the exact same tendencies when it comes to wearing far too much jewelry.
Yeah.
So
So
like of
true.
course they got along. Like
Yeah.
that made complete sense to me. But yeah, I
Yeah.
really loved the ensemble dynamic when Niao Niao finally had like allies
Yeah.
and friends and like was not alone in the world besides like her maid, who I
Yeah.
did also like.
I liked her maid as well. Her
Yeah.
maid was plucky. Yeah. I do feel like maybe in the edits of the second half we lost Chi Chi and the brothers kind of coming
Hmm.
together as a relationship because we saw all the crumbs that they were dropping about the two of them coming together, and I thought they were such a fun kind of couple. Because they were kind of fighting this attraction, and then suddenly, bang! Like they're together, and I'm like, we missed the best
Hmm.
bit, guys. Like you took
Yeah.
out the bit where they actually got together. So, like, yeah, I felt like
I
I
could
was on the cutting room floor, I think.
I could definitely use more of them. And even I think what was cut even more was Yang Yang's relationship with the
Oh yeah.
that one guy.
They had like
Yeah.
two
Like
scenes
what
together and then they were married.
choose yeah, wild.
Yeah. So true.
They had to pick and choose, and they definitely didn't choose
No,
them.
no, same. I like Yang Yang as well.
Yeah, so I wondered what we thought of Shaoshang and Ling Biyu's relationship development over the course of the drama. I mean, it sounds like we definitely like their relationship, but I think
Yeah.
it's maybe worth thinking a little bit more about the pacing of it. And if we
Mm.
think like the snail's pace, to use your terms there at the beginning, is earned. And then also, I think their separation, I think is maybe also interesting to think about. Uh, I'll maybe let you guys answer it before I do the answer that is the reason I wrote this question.
So for me, the snail's pace works extremely well. There's nothing I hate more than the insta love trope. So when it wasn't until episode 6 that our two characters finally met, saw each other's face, and then uh, didn't really fall in love instantly. I mean, he did fall first, maybe even in episode 1 without even seeing her face, but she certainly didn't have feelings for him. Um, and they didn't even like speak face to face until episode 7 or 8. That film waiting so long had me like so excited and thrilled. But there's another trope that I usually also hate, but works so well in this show. Oh, sorry. Can I say that again? We also technically got a third chance romance, but that one didn't work nearly as well for me. Ling Buyi fell first and fell hard, but he was both too slow to admit his feelings, and also wasn't what Now needed in part, like we were discussing earlier with Liu Yao. And honestly, I don't think Ling Buyi would ever have risked marrying her until his revenge was over, anyways. He wanted the best of both worlds and ultimately had to make a decision as to whether he would get revenge or not.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think for me, as I mentioned, I think the payoff really worked for me on the slow burn. This is probably maybe the most slow burn romance I've ever watched. Because obviously it's in a C drama, we can get to 27 episodes and they still haven't spent more than 5 minutes together on the screen. Um, but I think also it just really worked with the arc of her story because, as we said, she, needed a different thing and a different type of energy. I think she needed to grow into the character that could appreciate Ling Buyi and also need to have him in her life. I think that she needed to go through that um maturity herself. So I enjoyed watching that. I really enjoyed watching her fight a lot of it. So you were talking about the arrow scene, Gavin, which I also really, really loved. Part of what I loved about it is that she hated it so much and this kind of like push pull thing in her because she didn't like him at that point, but at the same time she was, needing to save him and then felt the attraction but was fighting the attraction. So we had all of that, which obviously just adds so much like delicious tension. So yeah, for me, definitely it worked. I think it did get a bit weird in the back half, but I think that's what we're going to talk about with the 5 year time jump. What do you think, Corinne?
Yeah, so thinking back to watching this live, like as it was airing, I remember there being a lot of people talking about how like it was so frustrating that Shaoshang like wouldn't just trust Ling Buyi and kept acting on her own and was like on the opposite side of him in the interior and was on the opposite side of him with the imperial intrigue and like backing like a different candidate for crown prince and all of this. And like there was just so many people I think underestimating Xiaoshang and being
Yeah.
like, girl, just like he's perfect. Why do you not just like trust him? And
Mm.
then I really, really appreciated the flip then, where there was the narrative confirmation that like no, like Ling Buyi was hiding a bigger and worse secret and
Yes.
then betrayed her much worse than anything she ever did to him. So I think that wouldn't have hit as hard if they hadn't spent so much time with Xiaoshang like really, really needing to be persuaded to trust this man because it like
Mm.
goes against like every fiber of her being to rely on and trust somebody. So like I think that was really rewarding. And then because of that, rewarding in like a sad, angsty, tragic way, I guess,
Yes.
to
Yes.
clarify. But like I think because of that, it then made sense to me for her to decide like we're done. Like I can't like I gave you so many chances and you abandoned me. And while it is both like a little bit ridiculous of her to like view that as abandonment, because like she also would die if shot with many arrows, probably. Uh, I just sort of understood that feeling and also that sort of narrative pushing at this idea that like love isn't always enough. Like
Mm,
she did love him. She loved him a lot. She never stopped loving him, but it
yeah,
was not enough for her to marry him and trust him enough to spend her life with him.
yeah.
So I don't know. I just felt like that was very well earned and would not have worked without the like really long slow build up to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I actually think one of the most genius things about this drama is in this part of the story is that you completely understand both of their viewpoints, even though they're
Hmm.
completely different. So, sometimes like especially in love triangles or something, you'll kind of come down on the side of one character and you'll just be fully like, I'm with you, like I feel like this. But I think with these guys, like because we spent so much time with them, we just know their characters so well. I just remember sitting there thinking, like, I really get you, Ling Buyi. I know why you did what you did, and I know you felt like you had no choice, and that was the way you did it. But I completely understand, Shaoshang with all of her abandonment issues, massive abandonment issues, why she feels this way and why she cannot, even though she loves you, she can't be with you anymore because, this is a huge, huge thing for her. And I just remember feeling like, oh, how are they ever going to get together? Like, how are they going to overcome this? Because I just really felt like it was just so well built. The conflict, by this point, the drama was so well built, and done so well that it was really, really, really heartbreaking to kind of watch these two characters, yeah, kind of have to stay apart.
So I think we also need to talk about the relationship between the Emperor, Empress Zhuan, and consort Yue. So how did their characterizations and relationship compare to other Empress, Emperor, Empress, consort setups you've seen in other dramas? And then how did this one work for you?
Yeah, Gavin, do you want to go?
Sure. So I don't think I've seen a more healthy, loving emperor, empress, consort relationship before in the drama since or even before. Uh, and I would love more. I think they were able to get along well because they knew each other and knew who really had the emperor's heart, really. So it wasn't ever a question of Yue being jealous of the Empress, um, or even the Empress being I think she wanted the Emperor's love, but she ultimately knew that she would never have it. Um, and comparing it to other dramas like let's say Nirvana and Fire, where it's like they're fighting amongst each other just as much as like the princes
Mm.
and are fighting amongst themselves. I think I'd rather see this versus the infighting, just because like it's such an interesting dynamic of a dynamic of like I would say balance, because they each knew their place and weren't afraid to like Yue wasn't afraid to discipline her, not only her kids but the Empress's kids as well. But the Empress was never like took offense to that, and so there was never felt like anyone was crossing the line.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I obviously spoke about Concert Year because she was my fave anyway, but I also just really loved actually their relationship in terms of because obviously this is an emperor and he can have multiple wives, and obviously in a modern like society we don't have people that have multiple like polyamory kind of like relationships, but I do actually like and I'm not sure this is where the drama was going necessarily with it, but I quite like the comment on how you can actually have different partners for different parts of you, like different types of love. And
Hmm.
I actually felt really sad for the Empress that she didn't fully appreciate how much the Emperor did love him in her way. It just wasn't, oh, in his way, sorry. It just wasn't maybe necessarily that kind of like, oh, my first love, the woman that I first shared and have happy memories of this kind of falling in love thing that we did in our youth. Um, but that he was, she was his wife when he was an older man and they shared their special memories together. And this was also a very deep love for him. It just wasn't something that was similar to what he shared with Concert Yue, but it was no no less for that, and I think that it was really nice that the drama didn't cut like their bits of it because that they got to
Mhm.
talk it through and he got to express that even though I don't know that maybe it was too late for her, because obviously she then went on to to be so sad with it. And that was like a really, really hard part of the drama for me. I got really teary through this bit. But as I said, love the Emperor. Like I think somebody wrote that he's such a mother hen, and I really thought that he was as well. Like I really loved you know, when he's clucking, like he's just obsessed with this wedding. And I think I remember when he right at the end, he's still kind of like going, why can't I, if I'm like, why do I not know this? Why has no one told me? Like all this stuff. And he's just such a like drama queen. And I really I really liked his character.
So I also like his obsession with Zhang's marriage from beginning to end was so funny. Like he cared more about it than his own children's marriages,
So
which
true.
was like, great. But like I think so I also really appreciated that there was no infighting in part because the Empress was just such like a kind person
Yeah.
and Consort Yue just like was not interested in that and that was fine. But like so I think so I agree with you that the Emperor did still love the Empress and that she didn't quite necessarily appreciate it, but I think maybe what was wearing on her that I think was done really, really subtly is all these moments like when they're sitting like at the front of a banquet or whatever and then the emperor and the consort will like share a joke or share like a laugh and a smile and then like the empress will try and like would try and like have an aside or like an observation to make and he was just never looking at her
Mm,
and I think and that feeling of being on the outside, I think would and did wear on her a lot over time. So like
yeah.
when she does decide on this sort of self-imposed exile, which was I do think in part to save her son who had no business being crown prince.
Yes.
Uh,
And
but
she knew that
like
too. Yeah.
yeah. But like that I think that is part of what made her choosing this exile so sad is because we know that the emperor loves her, but it's like an echo of that situation in which that kind of love was not enough
Mm,
for her to be willing to like live this kind of life anymore.
yeah.
And one of the moments that really sticks with me from this drama is when she's on her deathbed and like the last thing she says to the emperor is like meeting you is my life's fortune. Also, in our next life, I hope we never meet again.
Yeah, I love that line.
Mm.
I love that line.
Like that is brutal
That's
to be like
brutal.
this like I don't regret this, but also like never again,
Never again.
please.
Yes, please walk by. And also just
Yeah.
to come from such a like a warm-hearted, like soft
Yeah, like
character.
she's
Like,
never said a mean
yeah,
thing like the
no,
whole
yeah,
drama.
exactly. And you could see it in his face. It was like, whoa, did she just say that to me? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, semi cheering her on, going, yeah, because I think obviously it's also together with her son, being wholly unsuitable, as she said, to be crown prince. I just think she lives so much regret that their family was put in this position and
Hmm.
unable to ever be happy because, he was too nice to be crown prince. And it was like,
Hmm.
as a mother, I'm sure she must have been really sad that her son just couldn't be the man that he was, but be appreciated for the nice guy that was always trying to support people that he maybe shouldn't have supported, and yeah, be married to a woman that perhaps she shouldn't be married to. But all of those things are just that, that she would have she fulfilled her duty as, mother of the nation, so to speak, but she just really, really yearned for a simpler life for her and her son.
So, speaking of relationships, I have to ask, Now had no less than three men interested her throughout the drama. So my question to you is, was Ling Buyi the right man for her? Because I'm not completely sold that he was.
So I really liked that even though we had these three men sort of vying for her attention, it which was very fun, especially like that one scene where she and Liu Yao get caught like in the rain and they're all like over the same dinner talking about like the who would you save if someone was drowning situation,
Yeah.
which was very funny. But it didn't ever really feel like a love triangle to me, and that Niao Niao's affections were never divided.
Mm.
Uh, but it more felt to me like she had different relationships over the course of her life that were right for her at those moments. Like Lu Yao was like we mentioned earlier, like a really good first love. And I think they could have been content together, but he couldn't have matched her in the long run because she was
Mm.
just so smart that she would have like led him by the nose their whole life. And like I think he would have been happy with that, but I think she would have gotten bored. Uh and then
Yeah.
I liked her relationship with the scholar, but it also, I think, felt like their actual relationship when she was like sadder and more jaded got cut for time.
Mm.
Which I don't know if we needed her to have like another full romance storyline there, but it did feel like they were leading up to something that they never quite did. But yeah, I think Ling Buyi was right in the end, but only after the 5 year time gap where they both had a lot of growing up to do for their relationship to work.
So for me, Lu Yao, ride or die. So I saw what he and Now Now's relationship could be in her third aunt and uncle's marriage. So something nice, something safe, a loving life where she was the smarter one, and Lu Yao would do anything for her. Um, and I think Now knew what she was talking about when she defended Lu Yao against her mother, who was talking about how he couldn't make her happy. Um, because at the end, like whenever they broke up, is whenever I was like, yeah, she actually really did care for him. She really loved him. And I think, yeah, they could have had a good life together where, like you said, she was the smarter one and he would do anything for her. But I think that, like, just thinking of like for me, like that's the kind of relationship that I would want. I think they could have like had a good, long-lasting relationship together. But Ling Buyi is just Ling Buyi, you know? You can't
Yeah.
say no to him. For the scholar who is just always pining, he probably came across as the most brotherly to me, even with the like 5 year gap. I was interested in seeing if there was a possibility of romance there, but I do love that he held out hope for her until the very end. And maybe an alternate universe, there's a fanfic out there where maybe she didn't have to choose, and I'll go read that.
I like that, yeah. I think I agree with you, Corinne. Like, I think that I mean for me I felt like her and L'Oreal were like more like the brotherly ones, I think for me. Like I think they were more platonic and didn't have as much sexual chemistry as she had with Ling Buyi. I think there's a scene where they have some like there's a book with some kind of like Chinese equivalent to porn, I guess, or slightly like
Oh, I forgot about that
visualized like
scene. That was so
and I
funny.
remember like there's a scene where because like opens it and he like just throws it away because he's just like, oh my God, what is this? And it just really felt like, oh my God, they're like children, like that are together, they're really not
Hmm.
really ready to be married with each other. It just really felt like, yeah, brotherly to me. But I agree. I think that Nyan really needs somebody that's intellectually challenging her and is on the same level as her in terms of her smarts and things. Like I think like we said in her early part of her life, that kind of pure-hearted admiration was exactly what she needed. But I think as they went on and obviously being part of the court, she really needed to be toe to toe with somebody, and I think that is Ling Bui. On the scholar guy, like I always felt like I always just wondered whether or not how much of his attraction, because this thing of like this character trope of that men who can have any kind of man only want the one woman they can't have. And that's what I always felt like with him, that it was like how much of that attraction that you felt for her was actually for her, or just that she was the unattainable one for you. And in some way, like a safe choice. Because he was the man that kept saying, I
Mm.
don't want to get married, So there's this kind of thing of, how people who don't actually want to commit to relationships will constantly fall for the people that are actually technically unavailable because it's the way to keep their heart safe and all of that kind of um like tropey thing. So for me, it always felt like that was who the scholar was. Um, and I kind of think that he would make a great kind of SOS second lead story, where he finds finally like the woman that can actually who actually is going to unlock his heart, that isn't the safe one to
Hmm.
fall in love with. So did you watch Blossom? Because this lead actor was the male lead
He's
for,
so good in it.
yeah,
Like
He
I was so
is,
happy
yeah.
to like see him get his like turn in the spotlight, and he's so good. He's a big part of the reason why that drama was to me so successful.
yeah.
I would agree.
Great. Well, I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my watch list mainly because I just really want to see him. And he has like white hair. I saw the stills with him in white hair. He just looks so good. So yeah, I need to go check that out. Right. So back to Love Like the Galaxy, our final. So what did we think of the ending, guys? I'm really interested to hear what you guys think. Gavin, do you want to go first?
So yeah. All right. So the ending. I think it was around episode 40 or so that I felt a slight shift in the story, and I'm not sure if it was because of the editing or just because of the alternative events that were happening. But things did start to feel a little rushed. A character made decisions that I didn't even know were in play, and someone else's revenge story happened that felt unnecessary. Um, and as for those 2 points, I would say Liu Yao's brother, and then his wife.
Mm,
So I wasn't even expecting Liu Yao's brother to like come back into play as like this evil person,
Hmm.
and then later on his wife getting revenge. I was like, if you had cut anything from this drama, I would have preferred to cut that. I didn't feel like it was really necessary. I mean, it probably was necessary for like plot reasons, but it didn't feel very thought out, I guess. Well, maybe not thought out. Maybe not foreshadowed as well as I thought it could have been.
Well, and I wonder if
Um,
any sort of revenge story is going to be underwhelming after Ling Buyi's many years revenge and then like birthday banquet
mhm.
massacre. Like like that mystery was so well set up and had such a long reveal that they needed some sort of conflict to get Niao Niao and
Mhm.
Ling Buyi back together, which
yeah,
so I think is maybe why they couldn't cut that.
yeah.
But like that
Yeah.
just is I it wasn't narratively satisfying to me as like an ending for like the intrigue stuff, but I also don't know what could have been
Mm,
in
Mhm.
comparison.
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like maybe sort of like it was a betrayal of like what I knew from his character previously, just like him helping Ling Buyi earlier on, and
Mm.
then also just being a great brother to Liu Yao.
Mm,
And then him like wanting to rise above his station just because the rest of his family is awful. Like I get why he wanted to rise above, but he didn't feel like totally that type of guy.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like he could have plotted his way to success. He didn't need to go and do lots of murdery things somewhere else
Hmm.
in order to achieve those ends. It just felt a bit like convoluted.
Another plot twist, the big
Yeah.
one, that Ling Buyi isn't Ling Buyi. Were y'all expecting that? Because it threw me for a twist. I did not realize what was happening whenever it was revealed.
I got it at the almonds, but
I got
not
it at the
before that.
almonds. Yeah, me too. Yeah. I was like, they keep telling us about almonds and they keep telling us about, they're very sure, like yeah, they were featuring the almonds a lot. And I was like, like I said, I can be quite naive when I'm watching, but I was just like, oh, I think the almonds are supposed to mean something.
Mhm.
It seemed to be a bit of a random thing to be inserting into the drama. But yeah, like
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming at all in, yeah.
So I will say on rewatch, it is very funny that I think that the moment Ling Buyi like is interested in Niao Niao before he's even seen her is because she is willing to throw her uncle under the bus at the drop, which like when you know how it ends is like, oh, of course he finds that appealing.
Mhm.
Ah, that's really interesting. Yeah.
That's actually a great point. That's clever writing right there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, whenever it was revealed, like all the pieces really just like clicked into place. Like the almonds, them referring to how he looks so much like who
The general
they
general
said was his
whore.
uncle, but was
Yeah.
actually his father. Why he hated his father, why his mother hated his uncle, who was pretending to be, or who everyone thought was his father. Yeah, everything like just clicked into place. I was like, this is so well done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were, I mean, I'm not good at putting things together when I'm watching something either, but like they were very consistent in building up to that, like rewatching it. It was like, oh yeah, like this makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
would not have predicted it, but this makes sense to me.
Yeah. So how did you feel about the ending, Corinne?
I So with the caveats aside about the rushedness of it, like the ending, I really liked. Like I really liked Niao Niao and Ling Buyi getting back together and it taking Niao Niao realizing what the world would be like without him and like thinking he was dead for her to like realize, no, like I can't live my life without this man.
Yeah.
Like that moment, like it was so good and also like that was such great acting on the part of like Jia Lucy. Like that she's so good. She does a really good like ugly cry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so that worked really well. And then I just really liked at the end that like Ling Buyi, who has been alone the whole time, like gets to be part of like a big military family again, which is really just like what he needed. And I just had such warm fuzzies at the end of it. It's such a nice ending that I did not know if we would get because, well, actually, not knowing more about C dramas now, he does enough bad things that I did not know if like a happy ending would be in the cards.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
Well, I think I already knew because I think someone just spoiled it for me, but I was thinking this is one of those dramas where it could absolutely have ended without them being back together again.
I think watching it live,
dramas,
like
yeah,
people were like 50-50 on like which way they would go.
yeah, because they definitely could have gone either way. Mine's a minor nitpick on the that I just wanted finally to get an actual flipping wedding since we've been talking about being engaged since like the middle of the drama. I was like, I think I just need to see it. And I also think one of the most romantic moments is when he takes her up to like I guess the top of the gates and just points out this plot of land that he's got for her and she can just finally build the house of her dreams. Like this, like that moment when she feels like, okay, he actually has been listening to me and he does actually know what it is I truly want. And I kind of wanted to see her in her whole like, because I really liked all her scenes where she's like sawing things and like putting things together. I really loved the kind of like A-team kind of vibe that she gave to
She's
this
such
whole
a
like
STEM girl. Like
construction.
she's
Yeah,
an
she was,
engineer.
yeah, she was. We know from the bridge collapse she really does get like her engineering, so her civil engineering. But I just wanted to kind of see a little montage of her like putting her dream house together. That would have been super cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a follow-up question. Do you think that Ling Buyi could have made any other choice besides murdering his uncle and all of his bodyguards in the birthday massacre?
So I would say, well, actually, I want to add like a note here that I think is interesting when we think about the massacre. That from what I understand in the novel version,
Mm.
I think they made a change to A, get it to air, and B, let Ling Buyi live.
Right.
It in the book, it wasn't like a bunch of bodyguards. It was like his uncle and then all the like women and children in the family. So it wasn't
Mm.
just killing men. It was like killing
Oh.
The whole
like a
family.
wiping
Yeah.
out the family situation. But that aside, I understand why he found those actions necessary, but I think one of the great ironies is that once Niao Niao does learn the whole story, she solves the mystery and finds the evidence he's been looking for years in 2 days.
Yes, I think you're right.
And that's a woman for you.
Exactly. Just gets on and does it.
Yeah, so he should have trusted his strategic genius fiance, and he just chose not to. So
And
that's on him.
Yeah.
she gave him so many opportunities, like
So many.
all those points in that bit of the drama when she's like, "Is there something you'd like to tell me? You know that you could just tell me things, you know, you could just trust me. Is there something you want to say?"
Hmm.
And I'm like, "Tell her." And obviously, you know, there wouldn't be a drama if that actually happened, you know. But I do remember. I think for me, it felt very C-drama that this had to happen, like the whole raising of his family. I think they did a really good job with enough backstory, flip backs, from him when when the city's burning down, he's with his mum, and then obviously she is in such a state at the end of the drama when we visit her repeatedly that I just feel like we got the depth of his hatred and the depth of like his need for revenge. And that I do truly believe him when he said, I'm ready to die now. Like I feel like that was his life mission. And when he had completed it, he was ready to die if that's what needed to be done,
Hmm.
because that was his entire existence, his entire motivation and everything. Um, so yeah, it felt right. So in the novel, does
Yeah.
he survive and they have a happy ending?
I think so. I haven't read
Right.
it. I just saw
Yeah.
people talking about it as it was
Yeah.
airing. But yeah, they can get away with people who do bad deeds living more in novels than they can in
Yeah.
dramas.
Yeah. Oh.
um, like it felt there was something both like, oh my God, what are you doing? But also something so satisfactory about it because I'm thinking about like other like revenge mystery type shows that whenever people are like looking for evidence, there's always the like trying to do it the right way, or there's always another way to find evidence, or there's always going to be something else to bring this bad guy down. But and we find out that now does end up finding that. But with Ling Buyi didn't know that, and he thought it was a dead end, and he made the choice to cross that line and take the consequences for whatever it
Yeah.
was. And like oftentimes I know that I for other dramas I'm like, just I scream like just kill him, like just get it over with. And then Ling Buyi does that, and I'm like, thank you. But also I'm like, what are you doing? Why did you do that? Now you're ruining your whole relationship that we've been watching. So I was mixed emotions, mostly drawn from the floor though.
Yeah. Right. So should we end on some Rex, Corinne, since you're here? And this is actually
Yeah.
still only the second Chinese drama that we've covered on Afternoon Delight as a deep dive, which is kind of crazy. So do you want to tell us or sell us some other C dramas for people who might have enjoyed Love Like the Galaxy and want to watch more?
Yeah, so I have three I'm going to mention that will scratch different itches that this drama might have raised for you.
Great.
Uh, so the first is the story of Minglan, which I mentioned at the beginning is like one of my very, very favorite dramas. It is a whopping 73 episodes long, which I know is frightening uh, as a length. But it is based on a novel by the same author who wrote the novel that Love Like the Galaxy is based on,
Ah,
Oh.
and very much has the feeling of following Minglan, the main character, over the course of her life.
right.
So I did all, it does have like a really excellent romance in it that I really enjoyed, but you get to the wedding episode at I think almost exactly the halfway point of the drama.
Mm.
And the first half is sort of about her early life. So it is set in the Northern Song Dynasty, and it follows Zheng Minglan, an unfavored concubine born sixth daughter of a minor official, and her life as an unfavored daughter, which is pretty grim in a lot of ways. She reminds me a lot of Niao Niao, actually.
Mm.
She except that she's much more restrained because she has to be because of her circumstances. But like, if she could be sort of more chaotic and feral, like Niao Niao, I think they would have similar tendencies. Yeah, but if you like Shaoshang's characterization, Minglan will be really satisfying. And then I also really, really love her romance with Gu Jingyi, who is the second son of a marquis, and also does not have a great relationship with his family. There's a line, so it's not really a spoiler that they get married because it's they're set up as the leads, but like he goes through some shenanigans to get Minglan to marry him, which were really funny to watch. And there's a way in which he's the first person to really appreciate how smart she is that I really liked. So I love this drama. I know it's very, very long, but I was also sad when it ended. Like I would have liked it to keep going. It again earns its 73 episodes. And then I would also recommend if you have a Love Like the Galaxy emotional hangover and need a change of pace, but want some more Leo Wu in your life, and who doesn't? Amidst a Snowstorm of Love, excuse me. Amidst a Snowstorm of Love is a really, really good one. It's a rare modern C-drama that I like. I don't like that many of them. I tend to go to K-dramas if I'm looking for a modern, but it was very sort of slice of life relationship propaganda. Very low drama, but very like high on the sexual and romantic tension, and then also on billiards for some reason. But you don't have to pay attention to the billiards. That's not important. I left that like that drama is all about billiards, and I left it knowing approximately nothing more than I knew going in. But you don't have to like billiards to like it. And then the last one that I'll just mention briefly, if you would like another character who does fall in love with someone. So this is a tragedy. It's called Goodbye My Princess, and the male lead ultimately ends up deciding that he loves his revenge or wants his revenge more than he loves his partner. And it follows that to the end twice because there's also like an amnesia
Oh my gosh.
sequence for like semi-magical reasons. So like it's less like someone hit their head on a rock and more like they jumped in the river of forgetting or whatever. But like it is wild to like watch like a whole tragedy unfold in like 13 episodes and then be like, and now we're gonna do it again, but in 30 episodes.
Oh my gosh.
But so if you want some high tragedy and a male lead that goes all the way to villain instead of turning back at the last second,
Wow.
I would go to Goodbye My Princess.
Interesting. That's great. Thank you so much. I think for those of you who might be looking to pick up your next C-drama, maybe one of those will work for you. Amidst a Snowstorm of Love is definitely on my list. I've said that. I think I've been saying that for a year now. I will get to it. Maybe when it's not so cold and I don't mind spending time in icy Finland, I will get to it. So could you remind us how we find you online, Corinne?
Yes. So you can find the podcast I co-host, Sex Love Literature, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also find us on social media on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Tumblr at Sex Love Lit Podcast. I run the social media for our stuff. So if you make a comment on anything about C-dramas, I will immediately respond.
That's great. We'll add those links to Corinne's social medias as well on the show notes. And Gavin, do you want to share where we find you?
Sure. I'm really only on Instagram at the moment. I've been thinking about Blue Sky, but I'm not fully convinced I want to spend time on there.
Fair,
We'll
fair.
see. But you can find me on Instagram at GSDeets.
Great. And we'll add those to the show notes too. Thank you both so much for coming on the pod. I've loved our chat tonight. And I think we did the drama justice, all 56 episodes of it. It was really fun to kind of run that through with you guys. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks so much for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Great. And so until the next time, enjoy your more C-drama time and let us know if you've loved the drama, what you think in the comments on the post. Until next time, annyeong.
Annyeong.
감사합니다. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoona Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!